Welcome back to another video covering 5.4 of OCR GCSE Business. We're looking at different types of sources of finance as we go through this. So what is a source of finance? The source of finance is where a business needs to get money in a different way than just generating it through sales, and they maybe want to borrow money, and they're likely to do this through an internal or an external source of finance. Interest is an additional amount paid on borrowed money. This will be applicable to most types of borrowed money. Security is something of value that the business has that can guarantee that they're going to pay back a source of finance. For example, if they've got a warehouse that is worth a certain amount of money, they may put that down as security to secure that against borrowing maybe a loan. So therefore, if they were to fail to make payments, they may have to give over their warehouse or their security that's worth money. Time period is how long we're borrowing the finance for. So why do businesses need finance? We might need it for marketing points of view. So the 4 Ps, so developing our product, changing the place in which, or the distribution channel. It could be spending money on more effective promotion. It could be to do with changing our pricing strategy. Buying new raw materials and machinery, that's going to cost us money. It could be managing our cash flow. If we've got a month where we've got a negative cash flow, we might need to put into place a source of finance to pay for day-to-day expenses like staffing, raw materials, and also if you're a new business, you may need finance. So there's 2 main types of finance. Internal, they come from within the business, and external is money from outside of the business. Internal usually doesn't have a additional cost involved. However, it may have opportunity costs involved, and we spoke about opportunity cost before. It's the value of the next best alternative. So if I use £5,000 worth of our savings on something, I can't use that again. Okay, so the value of the next best alternative is what else could I have used that for? An external source of finance is a source of finance that comes from outside of the business, and there's usually some form of cost involved here. Usually it's interest. We also may need a security to form some sort of asset to give us some security to borrow that money. So we'll need some sort of security involved. Okay, so I'm going to go through the different internal sources of finance. So first one's owner's capital. So the owner basically puts more money into the business. It could be used to help as a takeover or to manage business debts. There's no real cost involved apart from opportunity costs for the owner. However, the ownership structure could change if a new shareholder comes on board. Retained profit is money kept back from previous years. This is not suitable for a brand new business because obviously they don't have previous years where they've kept profit back. You can use it to do things like purchase equipment and things like that. Again, there's no real cost involved here apart from opportunity cost. Sale of assets is, as it sounds, we are selling things of value from within the business. So an asset is something of value the business owns. So it could be a piece of machinery, it could be tables, chairs, computers, and these assets we then sell them off. Again, there's no real cost involved here, again, except for opportunity cost. If we sell those chairs and tables, then we haven't got somewhere to sit down and work. These are different external types. Overdraft, or sometimes known as a bank overdraft. This is a facility that you get from the bank that allows you to go below zero within your account, and then you would pay interest on that amount that you go below zero. Usually this percentage of interest is higher than a bank loan, but if you only keep it for a short time, then you should save yourself some money rather than taking out a bank loan. Trade credit is when your business allows the other business or customer to take the goods but not pay straight away. So for example, you are a fish and chip shop and you are buying your potatoes from a supplier. You get the potatoes in straight away, but you don't pay for them for another 3 months. It's great because it enables you to get those potatoes in and then generate sales from selling those potatoes, and then you can pay them back at a later date. Now, this period of credit is usually interest-free, but that would be determined in your contract with your supplier. A bank loan is the amount of money borrowed from the bank. Security of an asset is likely, so you would need some form of security. So it could be a property or something like that, something that's worth money. You can use that obviously to develop your business, buy a new piece of machinery. This will be paid back with interest. And conversely to an overdraft, it's usually likely to be a lower percentage rate than an overdraft. But here it's usually fixed on the period. So if you borrow a bank loan for 3 years, you're going to be paying more interest over the full duration of the term. Up next is taking on a new partner. So if you're a partnership, or maybe you're a sole trader and then you become a partnership, we might take on a new partner. We can obtain money from selling a portion of the business to a new partner. Again, we can use that to develop the business. However, the new partner will have their say, and they will also want a percentage of the profits. Share issue is only available for private and public limited companies. So private limited companies usually would sell to friends and family. Public limited companies would sell on the stock exchange. Again, we can use this to develop and grow the business. However, now we would need to share our dividends further out with the new shareholders. Crowdfunding is raised from sponsors on pages like GoFundMe. They're usually for new businesses or businesses that are looking to expand. They can raise quite a bit of money and you don't need security. However, you usually have to offer the people, these sponsors that invest in the business, some sort of reward for sponsoring the business. So if you set up a new coffee shop in your local area, you might offer them like free coffees for a year if they invest £3,000 in the business. So obviously in your first year, you're going to be having lower revenue because these people are going to be getting free coffees. This is a really important slide, so I'd encourage you to pause this and print this out or draw this out. So this is all the different sources of finance with their pros and cons. It's important you know the different pros and cons. ST and LT just means short term and long term. There's a little bit of MT in there, which is a bit more medium term, but this is a really important slide, so I encourage you to pause this and make some notes on this. Here I've just put the different sources of finances within internal and external and roughly equated them to whether they're likely to be short term, medium term or long term. There's not a lot of information about this in the book, and it doesn't seem to get tested too much as to whether they're short, medium or long term, but I still think it's worth knowing. I think that's it. Thanks very much. Bye.